Hello, second channel. It's been so long. I kind of want to use this as a platform to talk about new series ideas, which is exactly what we're going to do today. Talk about new things that I've kind of got planned for CK2 that I want to float out there and sort of see what people are truly interested in before I commit a whole bunch of time to them, obviously, because some of them are going to be quite extensive mods that I'm going to have to work on to make it happen. In the background, we'll play some Binding of Isaac, because I don't really have any other game I can sort of autopilot like this one. Now, I haven't played this properly in a very, very long time. Last time I played it was on stream, whenever that was, so I'm probably garbage at this game. I'm also playing with a pretty massive mod pack, so if it crashes or any shit happens, then you can sort of understand why. Well, let's play on just hard mode, and let's go for a very lovely... have I got Eden tokens? Probably not. Where the fuck is Eden? Eden, yeah. Oh, I've got 3. Alright, fine. Play as Eden. We'll do a random Eden run here and sort of see what we get. Okay, so... I want to use this as an excuse to sort of float, like I said, some ideas for basically CK2 series. And realistically get a feel for what people want. Because right now I've got a lot of ideas, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time and effort on them if people just genuinely aren't interested. So, I want to go back to fantasy. Fantasy is a big thing that we haven't done in quite some time. We sort of did the Gods on Earth series, which wasn't really fantasy, you know. It was still just Europe, but sort of structured very differently and with sort of... it was mythological rather than fantasy. I know a lot of people want to go back to sort of the Game of Thrones, even Warhammer style of elf and... dwarf and whatever else, you know, proper high fantasy stuff rather than just the garbage I've churned out recently. So, my first thing is, we've got to check out the Game of Thrones mod, right? The Game of Thrones mod recently went into version 2.0, I think it is. Ah, fuck. Recently went into version 2.0, so I'm thinking we kind of have a reason to go back to it anyway, but I'm trying to think of unique starts. That's the only reason I haven't gone back to it sooner, because I did want to do it before after the end came out, because the Game of Thrones update came out before after the end came out, right? The only problem was I couldn't think of a good start to go for it. So my plan for it is maybe making an Ifaquevron mod. So the Ifaquevron, I'm going to really probably fuck this up as I'm trying to do this at the same time. But the Ifaquevron is essentially like a lost forest kingdom consisting of... essentially children of the forest, right? They're called just woods walkers. The Dothraki are scared of them. They were wiped out in a war with Ibn, which is... and there's very little lore behind them as well, which is why I'm kind of tempted to... give that a go, because it leaves it very open-ended for me. And I've done that before with series where I specifically picked an area that doesn't have a huge amount of lore, like the Gogasos one, for example. So I can flesh it out myself, and people can't say, Mr. Stream, you've got this wrong, because, you know, I've learned that with the Dwemer, that people are very big on their fucking lore and leave a comment every episode complaining about how things are wrong. So, with the Ifaquevron, there's very little lore behind it besides the fact they're a bunch of forest walkers. The Maesters think they were just basically children of the forest, or at least somewhat related to that. And we're just told in the Game of Thrones war that they fled underground. That's essentially all there is to it. So, basically coming up with the Children of the Forest mod, maybe we play as the old gods, try and reform that religion, which would obviously involve crossing the Narrow Sea, going to Westeros. Maybe doing a more Essos-based Children of the Forest run, something like that. I don't know. Which is why I'm floating the idea, so that you guys can give me some feedback on that. But that's something I'd love to do, and obviously they would have a massive opinion negative against all other, against humans, maybe especially Dothraki and Ibonese characters. I don't know how we want to do it, but that's one of the ideas I've got to really bring back fantasy. I know people love the Game of Thrones world, and I know people love seeing the sort of shenanigans and the antics the characters get up to in that world. You know, it's kind of fun starting around the Robert Baratheon start, seeing what weird shit happens. So, chances are we'll do something like that later on. If anyone has any other starts in the Game of Thrones world that are somewhat more fancy, you know, I don't just want to play as Robb Stark or Tywin Lannister, because that's been done 1,000 times. The amount of bloody Robb Stark playthroughs are on YouTube makes me want to tear my eyes out, so we definitely won't be doing that one. But if you've got any good ideas for potentially Essos, if you've got any sort of potential areas that you think would be fun to actually add back into the Game of Thrones world to check out, sort of how we did Lang, that would be, or Ashai, I guess. That would be something I'm more than happy to do, but the Ifaquevron is sort of my current idea, mainly because it is so open-ended. I can do what I want with it. So that's one series that is more or less definitely going to happen. Now, the other series that is more or less definitely going to happen as well is, it's sort of a combination of two things. Firstly, I'm going to split the Angels mod off of Mythos, and I'm going to roll that into its own very separate mod, because I know a lot of people don't like playing Mythos. Mythos has a lot of problems associated with it. It's still somewhat unstable. I really don't like the vampire system. I don't like the werewolf system. I don't like the zombie system in it. I only really like Mythos because of the god mechanics and that sort of the various landed tiles that you get associated with that. Besides that, though, there's not a lot Mythos has to offer that I couldn't just do myself easier, and I'm not going to say more efficiently, but there are a lot of systems in Mythos that are very interlinked, like the werewolf systems in particular. You've got a whole, you know, a race of people linked to a culture, linked to some traits, linked to monster hunting, linked to government types, and the whole dual system there. Whereas I just don't want that in the Angels mod, so I'm thinking we roll that off separately, make it more of a religious-based thing rather than a fantasy/mythological thing. Similarly, and this is where the series is going to come in. Now, the Angels might not be incorporated into this for the series idea, but I am thinking we could go for a Satanist run instead. So the reason this idea came up is someone pointed out, like, we've played Catholicism a shit ton, like a ridiculous amount. So, and especially we've done not only have we done lots of Catholicism runs, but we've done 2 real big, like, goody two-shoes Catholicism runs, trying to become saints, or trying to defend the faith, or restore the schism, or whatever else. You know, we've had the Brother Love run as the last Carling. We did, obviously, the Gods on Earth series, which was essentially very, very similar. So I want to kind of flip it on its head a little bit. Play maybe within, like, somewhere else in the world that's not Catholicism, but Christianity, and play it from the evil side of things. Make Lucifer's Own a really key society to it. Make the Child of Satan mechanics really key to it. Make all the vices basically have the opposite effects, where you could become like a demon or some shit. I've got some people helping me out with that one, and we've got some things planned out. I haven't got anything set in stone yet, so if anybody's got any good ideas for that one. But I have some brief systems sort of outlined. My god, I'm taking a shit ton of damage here. And again, you know, I don't really care so much about the gameplay, more about what we're talking about. But that's an idea that I've got for another series coming up. Again, this and the Ifaquebra mod, if I go through that one, are going to be very, very complex mods that are going to probably take quite a long time to actually get together. So, before that, I want to do another series that's going to be much more basic, sort of go back to very simple CK2, maybe check out what Geheimnisnacht is like alongside this, because I do want to bring back Series B as well. I talked about this recently, but I want to bring back Series B roughly within a week, so around the 10th, the 11th of this month, I'm probably going to be returning that one. We're going to do a bit more of a down-to-earth one, and I've had an idea for that, and it's something people have been asking for quite a long time here, is taking a look at the sort of India area of the map, which I think is a good idea, because obviously, you know, alongside playing mostly Catholicism or Norse or Pagan or whatever else, we've played mostly within Europe, almost always within Europe, besides Igor Through is about the only one I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, where we haven't played with that. So I think we're probably going to check out, and it's going to kill 2 birds, 1 stone, not only checking out a new area, but I want to check out new government types as well. So I also want to go for Tibet, because they have that unique government type monastic feudal, which we've never really looked at before. So I'm thinking we play Tibet monastic feudal, and then play a peaceful ruler. Now I have a sort of a challenge run idea in mind for that one. So a lot of people have also been asking, along with India, is to do more roleplay characters, whereby the traits of the characters determine our playstyle. So for example, if we are a character with a martial education who's, say, ambitious and arbitrary, then we can just go to war a lot, not really give a shit about the prestige losses or the truce breaker. You know, go to war, really go nuts with things. Maybe if we've got a character who is trained in stewardship, focus on building up the realm, doing more business focus, maybe even limit certain focuses to certain educations or certain character traits. That could be an interesting run, because this comment I read very much sort of correctly pointed out that with a lot of the series, because I have a very particular playstyle, which hasn't failed us yet, let's be reasonable, I have a very particular playstyle which ends up with most characters just becoming carbon copies of one another. I actually noticed this myself when I was setting up Mad World 3, which I'm not going to talk about too much, but I might bring up a little bit depending on how much time we've got. When I was setting up Mad World 3 and actually bringing in all of those characters, so like Mountain, for example, the Immortal Mountain, when I was bringing in Brother Labaguette, when I was bringing in Igor Thrug, when I was bringing in all of the Immortal characters, you know, Diswaltney, whatever fucking else, we've had so many characters who are very, very similar to one another, right? We've had basically just immortal characters, good martial skills, good fighting traits, you know, genius, strong, whatever fucking else. They're all carbon copies. So to add a bit of uniqueness, having those different educations, having characters whose traits determine how we play might make things a bit more dynamic. So chances are the Tibet monastic feudal sort of roleplay, I think is probably the right word for it, of the character might be a really, really interesting playthrough. Now chances are that one's coming out after the end, after the end. So, I don't know what any of these things do, by the way. I haven't played Isaac with any of the booster packs or anything. I mean, ever, really. I've only basically looked at Booster 1 and 2, and that's it. What was I talking about? Yeah, so Tibet roleplay run. I think that's more or less certainly guaranteed. I'm probably also not going to do any modding of my own for that one, because I think the idea is good enough to stand by itself. We don't need to add any unique mechanics. I don't think we need to put too much of a unique spin on it, because I think it is inherently unique. Now, chances are I took together one of my sort of usual massive mod packs. So things like CK2 Plus will probably find its way in, because CK2 Plus I like. Doesn't alter the base game too much. If HIP is updated, we might check out HIP, but I know that HIP removes a lot of India. And the whole goal of the India/Tibet campaign would have probably been to be the Samrat Chakravartin, which is where you unite basically all of India. So that was going to be the idea for that one. And then playing as a peaceful character, and the other spin to it as well. Playing as a peaceful character who isn't really peaceful per se, but obviously playing as like Buddhist or something like that. But with a character who can only push other people's claims might be very, very fun, because that way we have to marry for claims, or push our vassals' claims, or more specifically can't go to war for our own gain, because that would defeat the point of playing as, you know, a character who's somewhat more peaceful, if that makes sense. You know, it sort of defeats the point of the religion if we're immediately going out doing a bunch of warfare. So maybe those two won't be combined in the same series, because the limits him with the Casus Belli, whilst also playing with the roleplay character who's somewhat limited already, might be a little bit too much of a restriction. Or maybe we could say we have to be peaceful unless we're training like a martial education, or wrath, or arbitrary, or ambitious, or something like that. I'll come up with some sort of strict rule set closer to the time. After the end, it's probably not going to last much longer, because again, it is. I did sort of say this in an episode, and then I edited it out, because I was like, if I say this, it might, you know, put people off a little bit. But the thing about after the end, it was always going to be a map painting series, because, you know, just by the conceit of it, you are playing as an invader. You know, you're playing any CK2 invader, the Mongols, the Aztecs, or any other ones, you know, and after the end, you've got the Russians, the Japanese as well. They only exist to map paint and build a new realm for themselves, and that's it. You know, the religion isn't particularly fleshed out. The culture isn't particularly fleshed out. There's no real unique features. It's just a very standard CK2 run. So, for me, there's not a lot of appeal to it. You know, we can't really build these crazy cool characters. We don't really have any unique mechanics. There might be some introduced women to reform the religion, but that was kind of going to be the end game. And that was for balancing reasons, that if we landed on the East Coast with all our troops, with whatever else, and we were able to reform the religion early, we'd be unstoppable. Now, we are already unstoppable just by virtue of having those invasions, but invaders are supposed to have invasions. If you ever played, you know, the Aztec Emperor in the base game CK2, you'll know that you have, I mean, I think it's unlimited use of the invasion Casus Belli. That's how I assumed it worked, and after the end, so I did balance it around that. When we didn't get it, I put it back, because, you know, again, I balanced the whole idea of the campaign around that. And we're still steamrolling everyone. I'm not going to spoil, like, today's episode or anything like that, but there's not a war yet, even at 98% threat, which has threatened us at all. So I feel like that series isn't long. I'm probably gonna... we're still going to do the full America conquest, but I'm going to probably edit it so that it's much more compact, so that we've got just the important, the big key wars, taking the big provinces. You know, not so much the character develop now, because unfortunately we do just have another god character. You know, there's another immortal 30, 40 martial character that's more or less invincible. Can't really die in too many duels, because after the end, as I've talked about many times, only has the Orders of Chivalry for training personal combat, and the downside to that is many characters are stuck at around sort of 100 personal combat, can't get much beyond that. So with our character, with the Immortal, with us min-maxing him is well in a league of its own. So the chance of him being actually killed is very, very slim, seeing it's only battlefield duels, and of course duels that can kill him off. That being said, I also want to give the series a proper run, so I know a lot of people ask for it, and a lot of people have wanted map painting for a very, very long time. Now, I personally hate map painting in CK2. I think it's the most boring way you can play it. Whenever we formed Rome, I've always, you know, put a very hard border on it. We'll take China, that's it. I'm not restoring the imperial borders, or, you know, even with, like, the Carling one. We restored Rome, and that was it. We left it there. We didn't go around getting true Rome or restoring any of the proper imperial borders. Oh, shit. That's me hitting my outro. Hang on. We're back. Right, there we go. So I don't like map painting personally as well, and I feel like that will kill the series if I'm certainly not interested in it, if that makes sense. Excuse me. What is this? This is added by one of the mods. Again, I'm taking so much damage because I have no fucking clue what's going on. A lot of these monsters I don't recognize, a lot of the items too. I mean, all the items we've got right now I recognize, but there's a lot of weird shit that I'm not down with, but we seem to be doing alright, I think. What else did I have in mind for series ideas? So there's a really great mod, and I believe it's called Divine Intervention. I might be wrong on that, but it's a mod on the Steam Workshop that essentially lets you play as the Pope. Now, apparently, as we found out in the Mythos series that we just finished, apparently you can just do that anyway. Apparently you can play as the Pope, and even though the tooltips aren't quite there, You can actively play as the Pope, decide what characters get coronated, decide how you want to coronate them. Certain things are a little bit broken, as we saw with the gimme all the stuff Pope command or whatever it was. But the Divine Intervention mod is actually kind of cool. Now, I haven't played it in a very, very long time. It might be horribly out of date. They might have just left it to die. But the whole point of the mod is it essentially allows you to play as the Pope, assign cardinals, so you can bring people to the Vatican to actually name them as cardinals. I assume they've changed the coronation settings and things like that to work in your favor, and maybe even the new Crusade mechanics too. There's a lot of stuff that they added in Holy Fury, which I imagine Divine Intervention would have to update to, if it's not already. So, I'm almost kind of thinking maybe it'd be easier if I just made a mod of my own, because it turns out you can still play as the Pope. It turns out it works fine if you play as the Pope, more or less. It's playable. It's just not very polished. We would need to change certain events and things. But the whole point of the Divine Intervention was maybe doing a sort of Borgia playthrough. So the Borgias were a... What was it? Pope? Can't remember now. Shit. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it was... The Borgia were essentially a group of... Corrupt might be the best way to phrase it. Popes who were a little bit questionable. Pope basically had a bunch of kids. It was this whole dynasty essentially controlling the papacy. It was real corrupt. Were they not in Assassin's Creed, now that I think about it? Was that the same people? Was it like Assassin's Creed 3 or something like that? Honestly, don't remember. I'm sorry. I don't really remember any of the old Assassin's Creed, but I'm pretty sure they were in Assassin's Creed too. But anyway, that was my idea of making this really corrupt papacy, like a dynastic papacy, whereby... we play as the Pope, maybe have a bunch of bastards, get them elected into the College of Cardinals, and try and make it so our dynasty has succession of the papal throne over and over. That would be awesome. I think that'd be a really fun playthrough. But again, it's going to be very, very difficult. And if it works, we'd be ridiculously powerful. You know, controlling a religion and being a king to your title off the bat, I think leaves us not really much room for expansion. Short of maybe making the papacy... the number one rulers of sort of Catholicism, maybe putting them in charge of the HRE, reforming Rome as the Pope. That would be a weird run, but again, it's reforming Rome again. It's playing in that central Catholicism, which I'm trying to get away from somewhat. I think it'd be a cool idea, but I think the idea would wear off very, very quickly, which is why that idea that I sort of floated was a lot lower on the list. I came up with a big list. What video was it I talked about it in? Maybe, oh, that was it. It was the Patreon monthly update, right? So I sort of spitballed a whole bunch of different ideas for people to give me some feedback on, and again, some of these, like the Papal one, now that I think about it, not really a big fan of that one in hindsight. I feel like it might just be way too easy, but rest assured, the Ifaquevron and the Satanist one is almost certainly gonna happen no matter what. The others, I'm not so sure about. Like, Tibet is almost certainly going to happen too, just based on the fact that it's a very simple, very fun little idea that, even if it doesn't work out, should just be an interesting playthrough in an area of the world we've never done before with religions we don't normally play. So it'll be fresh, and I know a lot of people want to get back to the more traditional CK2, because we've sort of had a weird halfway point with a lot of the recent series. Like I said earlier, I mean, even though the Mythos playthrough was supposed to be a fantasy one, it wasn't really, because it was still set in Europe as a Catholic, but kind of had some weird mythological things. Series A and Series B have become very, very blurred recently. Even the American one that we're doing now is sort of true of that as well. Mainly because, you know, you're in America. We're playing as just random feudal lords in America. There's not really anything fantasy-based to it, besides the fact that it is just, like, post-apocalyptic. Besides that, it is just playing feudal lords. I mean, hell, even Catholicism and the papacy are in it. So, I don't know. I feel like I need to draw a much clearer... I don't know what this is. I'm just going to pick it up. I don't know what the... I don't know how I'm going to sort of reestablish the line between Series A and Series B, but we'll sort of keep that going as we go along. But, and again, if anyone has any good ideas for CK2 series that you'd like to see, hit me with them, because I'm not running out of ideas, but I'm getting a very good feeling for what people like. And what people like and what I want to do don't always correlate very well. Now, obviously, it's always going to be sort of what I want to do that determines the channel, but, you know, because if I'm not having fun, then it's going to make garbage content, huh? But I've got to think about channel growth and what the audience want to see, because I am sort of beholden somewhat to the audience. People don't want to watch it. They're going to stop watching. Channels are going to stop growing. I'm going to starve to death, etc. So although I'd love to say, oh, I only do what I want to do because, you know, that's my channel, blah, blah, blah. I do feel an obligation to the audience first and foremost, but also I kind of have to. You know, I have to do what the audience want to see. I know the audience want to see more Game of Thrones, for example, and I actually enjoy the Game of Thrones, so that's why there's a nice crossover. Hence why we've had so much Game of Thrones on the channel. But I've also got to consider the people that don't want to see Game of Thrones, and I'm not dividing the audience over that when, you know, we could just take a couple months off of Game of Thrones, for example. But I do have to consider that as kind of a big thing that's always at the back of my mind. So RimWorld as well. I've always been, at least recently, been in a mind to kill off RimWorld. The issue is, the longer I leave it to kill it off, the harder it's going to be to kill off, because of course you're getting people subscribing just for RimWorld content, especially as it comes out daily. I mean, there are some people who would probably subscribe to a channel if they only watched 1/3 of the content on that channel, would still be fine to stick with it. So there are, I imagine there's probably a good, I mean, many thousand people at this point who have subscribed to the channel just for RimWorld. So if I kill off RimWorld, I'm essentially giving them nothing to watch. Now, I know I've seen a lot of comments from people basically saying, you know, I only subscribed to RimWorld, but now I really like the CK2 stuff, so I'm going to stick around. But it does, it's almost something, you know, you don't want to try it. If I measure it, I feel like it would have a horrible effect on the channel if I say, okay, we're going to cancel RimWorld, loads of people unsubscribe, and then may never come back. Or, more to the point, I've got to build all that back up again. And I feel like that's not really on my list of things to do. The channel is still in such an early and somewhat delicate stage that I'd rather not do these big old risky ideas like that. Similarly, like introducing a new series of something that isn't CK2 or RimWorld to take a regular spot. That is also way too risky in my opinion. I don't really want to be doing that either, just because that could have horrible consequences. Stop blowing me up, you prick! I've lost so much HP to this little arsehole blowing me up. I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe we should take these risks, because I definitely don't want to be doing CK2 and RimWorld for the next 50 years. But that's kind of why this second channel exists. This second channel is monetized now. I've just got to find the time to actually put more stuff on here to see what people like before it makes a full transition over to the main channel. Now, that's kind of why I did Mount and Blade on here to start off with. Then we moved it over to the main channel. The unfortunate thing with that is, and I know people would be happy to watch more Mount and Blade, the unfortunate thing with Mount and Blade is the mod that we were playing, the Star Wars mod, was super not balanced at all. Like, it was... I mean, I don't know how well it came across in a video, but there were occasions whereby shooting people would crash the game. There were times with Mount and Blade where going into space would crash the game. Battles would just be completely paused. Our own NPCs would turn off. Just weird shit like that. There were a lot of bugs associated with it. It's a cool mod, and I played it a lot off camera in my own time. But similarly, I can't really have on the main channel an extremely broken mod that people probably aren't hugely into anyway. Oh god, I'm probably going to die here. Bear with me. This is a shit run, by the way. We haven't had a single damage upgrade. That's not true. What if we had that's a damage upgrade? Because we clearly aren't using base damage. Yeah, we're fucking dead. That was garbage run. Jesus. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other games that might make a good fit. Like, obviously, you've got... It's weird. I feel behooven to play the new Elder Scrolls game on the main channel when it comes out. But also, like, what the fuck is the point? Everyone's going to be playing it. Why would people want to watch me play it rather than people who are... Elder Scrolls experts, and I'm not an Elder Scrolls expert, you know, I know some of the expanded lore, coda, but besides that, you know, I don't know why people would want to watch me, someone who's known for playing, let's be realistic here, it's mostly just strategy games. I mean, I would argue RimWorld is a strategy game, I'd argue CK2 is a strategy game, I don't play them particularly well, but another thing as well, and this is something I don't really talk about very much, is that with games like the Elder Scrolls, games I enjoy playing in my spare time, recently I've been playing a shit ton of Path of Exile. I sort of considered maybe we do some streams of that, but then it's also like, well, if I start turning that into work as well, what left is sacred? You know, CK2 and RimWorld were two of my favourite games, they're now only work for me. Things like, you know, Path of Exile, if I were to play that on a stream, then becomes work. Things like the Elder Scrolls especially, which is obviously a massive, very fun franchise. For me, if I were to start doing daily videos on that, I start wondering how long it would be before I dread making... Elder Scrolls videos, you know, particularly if I start playing badly and people start getting up in arms and shit like that, then it sort of becomes, well, I don't want to play this game anymore, and then that's another thing out of my free time that I would like to play normally, I've sort of lost, so there's also that to consider with it. Now, that's a much bigger deal than I'm making out to be, because really, I don't give a fuck at the end of the day, I'm paid to play games, so... Sometimes you got to know what battles to fight, and honestly, if people were super interested in me playing the Elder Scrolls, of course I would do it. There should be no question about that. But these are sort of some things that I don't normally talk about that I probably should consider. I remember why I stopped playing Isaac, because after you sort of, I mean, there are certain runs like that one which was shit. I actually played a run with this mod pack to check that it was alright as this character, and it was super fun, and then we just played those two. Those were both shite. So I'm going to play as this character. So this character starts with an item called Missing No. Missing No, every floor you get given random items. There's a lot of technical sides to it, but I'm not here to talk about technical sides of Isaac, because I know a fair amount about Isaac, actually. It's another one of those games that I've put... I mean, Isaac, I think I have, like, 1,500 hours in, something like that. It's a game I used to frequently compete in, and I did actually get some... I've talked about this before. It's on my Twitter if you want to go dig up the scores. But I did consistently get, like, top 50s in Isaac. Now, you might not believe it, judging by what you've seen today, but that's, again, like I said, when the booster packs started coming out, I think they oversaturated the game with way too much shit, and I sort of gave up on it, because it was just... I don't know, I feel like they sort of lost what made Isaac good. There was just too much content and too much shit to take into account. I don't know, it just didn't feel like Isaac anymore to me. Maybe I just went off the game, that's always possible. If I only had the luxury to do that with CK2, that's a joke, by the way. I still enjoy playing CK2. But as long as we find ways to keep it fresh, that's all. Obviously, I don't want to be doing achievement runs. I think in particular would be... I don't know, actually. I was going to say they'd be really bad, but in hindsight, that might be exactly what we need, because we don't really do achievement runs, do we? But the issue is, I know people don't really want to watch achievement runs as well. Also, a lot of the hard achievements in CK2 I've already gotten. You know, things like Restore Rome, already got it. Some of the difficult ones, people are like, oh, do an Indo-Norse playthrough, which is where you play as a Norse character and make India or some shit. I've already done it. Like, and the one where you play as a merchant republic and take the whole coast of Asia. I've already done it. Like, the hard achievements I've done, it's the boring ones. Like, play as 5 generations of empresses. That's boring as all fuck. Why would you want to watch that? We basically did that in the Igor Thrug one anyway, and that's another thing as well. A lot of the achievements in CK2 that I don't actually have, we've basically done it in a modded playthrough. It's just because I wasn't playing on Iron Man, it's the reason I haven't done one, so I wouldn't be able to add anything really fresh to it either. I don't know. There's a lot about CK2 I could talk about, but I don't want to be here all day discussing that shit, because, you know, I do that for basically 2 hours a day anyway. And then, you know, obviously after it's edited all, then, you know, guys only see the good stuff in theory. But let me know what you think of the ideas. And also, let me know if you think any of those ideas I floated are definitely worth the time investment or definitely not worth the time investment, I guess. See, I don't know what any of the fuck these items are. Are these modded? Are those first 2 things that I've got there modded? I have no idea. I have absolutely no clue. Are these just items that are in the base game now? Who the fuck knows? That's Biden advising. Yeah, that's all. That's all I wanted to do, is use this as just a platform to float some ideas to you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what feedback you've got regarding the shit what I done talked about. And I'll discuss it with you guys in the comment section, you know, a little bit more. I'll reply to specific comments. Or even if you want to talk about it on Discord, you know, drop me a message over there or get in the chat room and we'll talk about it there too. But, yeah, I'm interested in the discussion. Again, if you got any ideas, modded or unmodded, I'm all ears on that one.